Yes, can you see the screen now? Yes? Okay, so let us continue. So this is what we have discussed, the definition of bipartite graph, and we have taken this one example, incremental method, to find the maximum matching, and we have taken this example in the last session. And the last point was that we want to apply a flow network, that is a Ford-Fulkerson method, to find a maximum matching in the bipartite graph. So now to achieve the goal, what we'll do is, here we have a bipartite graph, 3, 2, and 1, and 4, 6, and 5. So that part is the bipartite graph. So in this bipartite graph, we'll add the source node and the terminal node. So you can see the source node S, and you can see the terminal node T. Now the source node S is linked with node 1, node 2, and node 3. And the terminal node is also linked with node 6, 5, and 4. And the weight we'll assign to all the edges will be 1. We'll assign the weight 1 to all the edges. So this is how we'll convert the bipartite graph into a flow network. Is it clear? This is how you will get the flow network with this bipartite graph. So now, once we are getting this flow network, if you apply the Ford-Fulkerson method, which we know already, then I can get the one possible path from S to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to T. That is the flow value 1. Because in this bipartite graph, the value is 1 for all the edges. So every time we'll get the increment of 1 always in the flow network. So S to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to T. That is the one possible path, which is the augmenting path. And once you get this path, definitely residual network will contain 0 for all these 3. Now similarly, if you apply the entire flow network, then the final solution will be like this. You can see 1, 2, 3, then 3 to 4, and 4 to T, right? This is the final solution through which we will get the maximum matching. So S to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to T, that is one path. Then S to 2, 2 to 5, and 5 to T, there is the another possible path. And the third path is S to 1, 1 to 6, and 6 to T. So you can see that we are able to match all the 3 nodes with the 3 destination nodes. And after that, we can remove the source and terminal nodes from this graph. So you'll get the complete matching. 1 will match with 6, 2 will match with 5, and 3 will match with 4. It is how we'll get the final solution. Clear? Any query in this example? It is just a simple example of Ford-Fulkerson method with 3 iterations. Clear? So this is how we'll get the solution. So similarly for this another graph, again we have a bipartite graph, left and right nodes. Intersection of L and R is 5 empty set. So to get the solution, we'll convert this into a flow network with source node and the terminal node T. So you can see the path from source to terminal. We have 3 possible paths, and we are able to get the maximum matching. Further, you cannot get the matching because now there is no possible path which will give more matching. You cannot connect node 1. Similarly, you cannot connect node number 4 because this one is connected with R1. L1 is connected with R1, which is already used, and L4 is connected with only R3, which is already utilized. So you cannot have another possible solution with more matching. You can have a 3 matching graph, right? But you cannot get a matching of 4 nodes. So that is how, through a Ford-Fulkerson network, you are able to do a maximum matching in the bipartite graph. So this is a simple lemma that let G is equal to V, E be a bipartite graph, where V is the set of nodes and E is the set of edges. and we are partitioning the vertex into L union R, and intersection of L and R is empty, and G dash is equal to V dash comma E dash, which is the corresponding flow network we are generating from graph G by adding the source node and the terminal node. If M is a matching in the graph G, then there is an integer valued flow, because the flow value will be always integer. So there is an integer valued flow F in the graph G dash, with value of the flow is equal to the cardinality of the maximum matching. So flow value will be equal to the maximum matching. Conversely, we can say if F is an integer valued flow in the graph G dash, then there is a matching M in the graph G with cardinality mod M is equal to mod F. So basically it is telling that flow value and the maximum matching value will be equal. Why it is so? Because each node in the first column has in degree of 1. If you look at the graph, you can see that in degree of all the nodes of L is 1. Similarly, out degree of all the nodes in R is also 1. So because in degree is 1, you can use that node only once, because the weight of each edge is only 1. So in degree of L is 1. Similarly, out degree for R is also 1, and each node has only one value, right? Each edge having only one value. So each node in the bipartite graph can be involved once in the flow, because once the value becomes 0 from 1, you cannot reuse that node. You can use that node only once. So that's why it is giving a assurance that flow value will be equal to a maximum matching. This is one more example, people and task. We have 5 people and we have 5 tasks. So it is one kind of, we can say, a job assignment problem. That person A can do job 1 and 2, person B can do job 1 only, person C can do job 2 and 3, person D can do job 3, 4 and 5, and person E can do job 5 only, right? So it is a job assignment problem. So here it is not with the cost. You might have studied in your algorithm job assignment problem in the branch and bound technique, that you have a set of people and you have a set of jobs and you want to find the maximum profit, right? So that you can have a maximum profit if you assign the job to the people. So here just we are assigning people to the task. There is no cost involved in it. So now again we can convert this network into a bipartite, this bipartite graph into a flow network by assigning value 1 to all the people from source node, and similarly we'll assign value 1 to all the people in the R part or the destination, which is linked with the T, and all the weights will be 1. So now in this, can you identify what will be the flow value? Yes, if you can tell, it will be good. Yes, can you tell? Is it 5? Yes, or if you are getting 5? Yes. So let us see. Because to save the time, I am directly showing you the answer. or it is 4, it is 5. You can see here that A is connected to 2, node B is connected to 1, A2, B1. You can have any matching, no problem, but the value will be 5. A2, B1, then C3, D4, and E5. Is it clear? A is connected with 5, D is connected with 4, C is connected with 3, B is connected with 1, A is connected with 2. So we have a matching of 5. Is it clear? Yes, any query in this? So it is just an example of a Ford-Fulkerson method. So what we are doing, it is one kind of theory of reduction. You might have studied theory of reduction in the algorithm analysis. Yes or no? Have you gone through it? Because during D2D sessions, we have discussed that theory of reductions. So have you studied that theory of reductions? Yes or no? Okay, what is lemma? Okay, let me go to that slide. Lemma is just one kind of rule, we can say. So if there is a bipartite graph, from that bipartite graph we'll get a flow network. And this lemma is telling that whatever is the matching value, same will be the flow value. So from the bipartite graph, you can tell what is the flow value of the network. Similarly, if you have a flow network and if you resolve that flow network, the flow value will be equal to the maximum matching. Right? So that means these two problems are reducible to each other. You can reduce a bipartite matching problem into a flow network. And this reduction time is very less. It is of constant, because just you have to assign the value 1 to all the nodes in the group L from source node, and similarly you have to create the edge from the R node to terminal node with a value 1. So Ford-Fulkerson method can find a maximum matching in a bipartite graph in order of mn time. And we do this by reducing the problem of maximum bipartite matching to the network flow. Yes, is this clear? Yes, maximum matching means how much you can maximum match L with R. Right? Okay. Here I can do a matching of only 3 nodes. I will match A with 2, B with 1, and C with 3. So it is maximum, it is a matching of 3, but it is not a maximum matching, because still you can match E and F. So that is the difference between matching and the maximum matching. Right? When you consider A, B, C, A with 2, B with 1, and C with 3, it is only a matching of 3 nodes from L to R, or from group A to group B, but it is not a maximum matching. What is maximum matching? That beyond which you cannot match nodes in the A with nodes in the group B. So our goal is, through a Ford-Fulkerson network, we want to get a maximum matching, because Ford-Fulkerson network means a maximum flow. So here it is a maximum matching. Is it clear, Priyank, now? Yes? Yes, maximum flow will be equal to maximum matching. Whatever is the maximum flow value, no. A has maximum matching to no. A is linked with 2 nodes, 1 and 2. A can do 2 tasks, 1 and 2, but you cannot use A for both the tasks. You can either assign A task 1 or you can assign A task 2. But if you assign A to task 1, then there will be a problem. You cannot assign anything to B. Are you getting this? So it will not generate a maximum matching. Here, if I assign A to 1, then the node B will not be assigned to any task. Is it clear? It is visible in the graph. If I assign person A to task 1, then there is no task which I can assign to B. So it will not give me a maximum matching. It will give me a matching of 4 only. It will give me a matching of 4 only. So that's why it is not a maximum matching. In that case, so this is only way to get the max flow. Yes, we have seen two methods. One is incremental method in the previous session, through which you can get our goal is not to get the max flow. Our goal is to do a bipartite matching, right? And for that, we are using a reducibility concept, and we are using a Ford-Fulkerson method. So this is one application of a flow network. That using a concept of flow network, we can solve the problem of bipartite matching. Right? We have two methods to achieve the goal. One is through incremental method. If you recall the previous lecture, we have gone through this example. Incremental approach to find the maximum matching in the bipartite graph. This one. So through this technique or through this algorithm, we can also find a maximum matching in the bipartite graph. But we are taking this bipartite graph matching problem as a one application of flow network. So I am doing a theory of reduction, and we am reducing a bipartite graph to a flow network, so that we can see one application of a flow network. Is this clear now? Yes. So can we proceed further? Because if you ask your doubts, it will be better for us, and it is better for you as well, that we can understand that where you are facing the problem, and we can explain in a different way. Yes, any query? Offline students, is it clear? Yes, any query to any other student who is attending online? Okay, so I am sharing another screen with you now. We have more applications. So this is one more applications of, we can say, a Ford-Fulkerson network. This is known as a Latin square. What is the characteristic of Latin square? First, understand. Each row contains every number from 1 to n. So here I have constructed a Latin square of size 4 cross 4. Each row contains a number from 1 to n. Each column contains a number from 1 to n. But numbers in column and row are distinct. You cannot have the same number more than once in either the row or the column. The first row and first column contains 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, second row and second column contains 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot have the same number more than once, either in the row or in the column. So now, to generate a Latin square, we can use a bipartite graph, and as we can use a bipartite graph, also we can use a Ford-Fulkerson algorithm. So now let us see. Suppose you are given a partial Latin square when some rows are already filled in. You already have a Latin square here with 5 cross 5, and some values are already filled in, 2, 4, 5, 3, 1. Now, can I convert this into a Latin square? Can I fill the remaining 2 rows? So what I will consider, I will convert this Latin square into a bipartite graph, so that it will satisfy the criteria that every row should have a number only once and every column should have a number only once. So now what I am doing, that I am taking the 4th row first. So 4th row, first column, right? So column 1 can be connected with 1 and 5. Can you tell why? because now we have two possible values for the first column and the fourth row. Either you can put 1 or you can put 5. So I am connecting column 1, right? So we'll go row by row. We are going row by row. So we are connecting column 1 with 1 and 5. Then we'll connect column 2, because in column 2 you have missing number as 3 and 5. So I will connect 2 with 3 and 5. Now in column 3, the missing numbers are 2 and 4. So we are connecting node 3 with 2 and 4. Similarly, in the last column, the missing numbers are 2 and 3. So I will connect the last column with 2 and 3. It is how we'll get a bipartite graph. Is this construction clear? How we have converted this into a bipartite graph? Right, so this is a very simple example. You may be given some another square of size 5 cross 5 and some rows are missing in it. Here it is one matrix with 5 cross 5. You can have some another matrix with 5 cross 5 with some rows are missing. So for each row you have to apply a Ford-Fulkerson algorithm. We will convert each row into a bipartite graph, and then that bipartite graph will be converted to a Ford-Fulkerson algorithm. Yes, is this clear? Yes, online students, is this clear? Okay, so now what will happen? We will apply a bipartite graph matching through a Ford-Fulkerson network. Right? So here again, I am not converting into a Ford-Fulkerson network. You can understand easily. So I am matching 1 with 1. I will match 2 with 5, 3 with 2, 4 with 4, and 5 with 3. And definitely it will be a complete matching, because you will get the values for all the positions. You will get the values for all the possible positions. So 1 will match with 1, 2 will match with 5, 3 will match with 2, 4 will match with 4, and 5 will match with 3. And you are able to fill this row. Now what is the next task? It is a 5 cross 5 Latin square. We have to go for the next row. And now for the next row, what will happen? The node 1 can be connected with only which node? 5. 2 will be connected with 3. So it is a 1-to-1 mapping, because it is the last row. Column 3 will match with 4. Column 4 will match with 1. And column 5 will match with 2. Clear? So it will be directly 1-to-1 matching. So you can directly put that value and you will get the complete Latin square. Clear? So basically what we have done, we have applied this Ford-Fulkerson algorithm to convert a Latin square into a bipartite graph, and from bipartite graph we can get the Ford-Fulkerson approach. So the bipartite graph coming from the Latin square are always regular, because if there are k unfilled rows, then each column already has n minus k numbers, and so connected to k numbers, each number appeared in n minus k columns above, and so connected to k columns. So the bipartite graph is known as a k regular, and thus always has a perfect matching. Is it clear why it is k regular bipartite graph? Because we have total 5 numbers here, right? Because it is a 5 cross 5. So already we have filled the n minus k numbers. So remaining numbers will be k. Each column has n minus k possible numbers, right? So it is connected to how many numbers? K numbers. Every column will be connected to k numbers based on the row. Clear? So here fourth row is there, so it will connect with two numbers. Each number appeared in n minus k columns above. So this bipartite graph is a k regular, and thus it has a perfect matching. Perfect matching means what? None of the node will be left in the Latin square. So it is known as a perfect matching, right? And why it is k regular? Because you can see that we are getting each node connected with k numbers. So it is a k regular bipartite graph. Right? When you consider only one row, first row is filled, then how many numbers are left? 4 numbers. Just assume that only first row is filled, 2, 4, 5, 3, 1. So second, third, fourth and fifth, 4 rows are left. So column 1 will be connected with how many nodes? 4 nodes, because it is a k regular bipartite graph. When 2 rows are filled, then the first column will be filled with, it will be connected with 3 different numbers. So every time it will reduce by 1, but it is always a k regular. Why k regular? Because you will get a number for it. So why this graph is a 5 regular bipartite graph? Because it is, every node is connected with 5 different numbers initially in the beginning. If it is completely empty, then you can connect column 1 with all the 5 numbers. You can connect column 2 with all the 5 numbers. It is known as a k regular bipartite graph. Is it clear? So every time once you fill one row, it becomes 1 less. So your graph becomes 4 regular bipartite graph. Then it becomes 3 regular bipartite graph. So regular bipartite graph means what? Every node is connected with that many numbers. If it is a 3 regular bipartite graph, that means every node from the set L is connected with 3 nodes. Right? Here you can see it is a 2 regular bipartite graph, because node 1 is connected with 1 and 3, 1 and 5. 2 is connected with 3 and 5. 3 is connected with 2 and 4. So every node is connected with 2 other nodes. So it is a 2 regular bipartite graph. Why it is 2 regular bipartite graph? Because 2 rows are left. We have to fill the 2 rows. Is it clear? Here can you say what is the graph? It is how much regular at this level? Because one last row is left. Only one last row is left. So one last row is left, so it is 1 regular bipartite graph. Every node is connected with only one node. Is it clear? So initially it is a 5 regular bipartite graph, then it becomes 4 regular, then it becomes 3 regular, then it becomes 2 regular, and finally 1 regular bipartite graph. Okay, next is one more problem, that is a bicycle sharing problem. So let us understand the diagram so you can understand all the parameters. So it is again having certain demand nodes. Demand nodes means we can say the showrooms from where you can buy the bicycles, right? And supply nodes means what? The factory outlet, right? Where actually this supply of bicycles will be generated, right? So it is a supply demand network. So negative nodes indicates a supply nodes -7, -8 and -6 here. And demand nodes are given the value positive, that is 10, 0 and 11. So there are 3 demand nodes here, 10, 0 and 11. So that means there is a demand of 10 cycles, there is a demand of no cycles in the second showroom, and there is demand of 11 cycles in the third showroom. And to achieve that goal, we have 2 supply networks, three supply nodes, -7, -8, and -6. Is it clear? And when you want to transfer the cycles from supply node to a demand node, you have to use some path. So the capacity of the path is also given. The capacity of the path is given. Also, you can see, you can supply from one supply node to another supply node if there is a requirement. You can see -7 node is connected with -8. Similarly, so it is showing that there is a capacity of 10 of that path. So now to understand this, we will use a Ford-Fulkerson method. Again, the same criteria are there. Capacity constant, that always as compared to capacity, the flow value will be less than or equal to. Flow conservation property will be also there, that inflow minus outflow will be actually the demand. The inflow to the node minus outflow will be what? The demand, right? So can we solve this problem using a Ford-Fulkerson method? So answer is yes. We can convert this into a Ford-Fulkerson network. So I have introduced one supply node. Can you see that S, which is a new node in this? Yes, can you see the S node, supply node? Yes, there is one query here. What if we have two rows left? So that's what we have done. I think I missed this question. I think you are talking about this. Here we have two rows left. So we have constructed this bipartite graph. And we are able to fill this row. Right? This is what we have done. Then again, for the last one, when only one row is left, no need to construct it, because it is only one k-regular bipartite graph. Right? It is one regular bipartite graph, so no need to construct the thing. You can directly put the number, remaining number. Okay, so again, let us go to our source and terminal node. So now, to convert this into a Ford-Fulkerson network, I will connect S with the node with a value 7, because I am using this -7 as a capacity. Right? I am using -7 as a capacity from source to the supply node. Are you getting this difference? Can you see the difference between the two? I think this is sufficient. I think you can see this now. Right? So here S and T is there. Now we are introducing this source node. So the capacity from source to supply node is 7. Similarly, another, it is -8. So source to this supply node is 8. And third source to this third supply node is 6. Is it clear? Yes or no? Then similarly for the demand node. So from demand node, we have 3 demand nodes, 10, 0, and 11. So 10 to T will be connected, 0 to T will be connected, and 11 to T will be connected. But 0 to T having no significance, so we are not showing it. Is it clear? Because if 0 is the flow value, capacity, then that path is of no use. So I am just showing connection from 10 to T terminal node and from 11 to T. So it is now a flow network. It is same as your flow network, nothing different, right? So using a Ford-Fulkerson method, you can easily solve this flow network. So now to understand this, we'll take a very simple example. So which are the supply nodes here? This you can solve later on by your own. I am not sharing the answer of this problem, right? You can solve it. So now for this example, supply node, we have 2 supply nodes, -3 and -3. Similarly, we have 2 demand nodes, 2 and 4, and remaining are the capacities. So I will convert that into a flow network. S star is the source node, and T star is the new terminal node, which is connected with the demand node. So now, can you tell what is the flow value? Now there is no significance of that number, -3, 8, 2, and 4. Right? You can consider as ABCD also, because your flow network is ready. S star, then A, B, C, D. You can think like that. Yes? Is it 5? Yes, can you share your answer for this? Some people are telling 6, some people are telling it is 5. So can you share? Is it 6? Can you tell which augmenting path you have considered? Which augmenting path you have considered? Can you write in the chat window, Priyank? And only one student has given the answer. S2, 3, okay, S minus 3, fine. Then 2, okay, and then 2 to T, 2, S minus 3, then 2, and then T star. So the path value will be 2. Okay, then second is S2 minus 3, then minus 3, 2 again, 2, one more, okay. Then 2 to 4, okay. And then 4 to T, it is 1, okay, correct. Okay, so we have to consider basically 4 paths. Yes, to get the answer, we have to have 4 different paths, and that will give us the flow value as 6. So that is how you can satisfy the supply demand network. So if you see the answer, we can represent like this, that from the supply node -3 will go to demand node 2 with a demand 2. So you can see that whatever is the demand, we are satisfying that. The demand node having a value 2, so we are satisfying that. Similarly, from another supply node -3, which is on the top, we are supplying also the demand, right, of the other node. So you can see it is going through another demand node. The path is through a demand node, right? Because the demand node of the another node is 4. So you cannot supply directly from -3 to it. So it is using the another one also. Right? So from one demand node, we are sending the quantity to the another demand node. So this 2 to 4 line is very important. Similarly, from -3 to -3, it is showing that from one supply node to another supply node, we need to transfer the quantity. Is it clear? So definitely the answer is 6, which is the correct one. So this is the final diagram after removing the source node as well as the terminal nodes. There is one more application of the flow network. So we have seen 3 applications of flow network, Ford-Fulkerson method. The first is maximum matching in the bipartite graph. The second is Latin square. Third one is a supply demand network, which you can use for a bicycle problem and other supply demand problems like this. So this you have to solve by your own. I am not going to share the answer for this example. Okay, now one more thing is there. I think you have studied already linear programming in another section of the subject. So you can also convert the flow network to a linear programming. If you don't know how to apply the Ford-Fulkerson method or the graph cut method to find the flow value, you can also use a linear programming, right? And you can convert the flow network into a linear programming as well. So now let us see how we can do that. It is a flow network, right? So we are taking the variables. You can see x01. So I am using a variable name x01 for node 0 to 1. Similarly, x02 for path from 0 to 2. Similarly, x03 for 0 to 3. Similarly, 1 to 4. So I am using variable x14. Similarly, from 1 to 5, x15. And last, if I consider from 6 to 7, x67. This is how for every edge of the flow network, we have one variable name associated with it. Clear? Now, from this graph, we have to write the equations, right? So now we'll write x01 has the capacity constraint 3 because the maximum capacity of the path is 3. So we have these constraints. X01 should be less than or equal to 3. X02 should be less than or equal to 2. X03 should be less than or equal to 2. Right? So this is how you will get the constraint for all the variables. The value should not be more than this. Clear? Are you getting this? Right? So there is one flow capacity constraint, which you will define in the form of equation, in the form of linear equation. Next is we have to define the flow conservation property. So for the node 1, the value of inflow and outflow must be equal. So for the node 1, we'll write x01, which is the inflow to the node 1, will be equal to outflow from the node 1. So we'll write x01 equal to x14 plus x15, right? So value of x14 and the x15, addition of that two will be equal to x01. So x01 is the capacity or it is the flow value? Can you tell what this x01 variable indicates? X01 is the capacity or the flow value? If you understood the thing, you can answer. Yes, it is the flow value, right? So this is indicating that outflow from the node and the inflow to the node must be equal. Yeah, that is the constraint. So we'll write for node 1. Similarly, for node 2, we can write x02 equal to x24 plus x25 plus x26. For node 3, we'll write x03 equal to x35. Similarly, for node 4, 5, and 6, we can write. So for node 6, we are writing it is x26 equal to x67. That is for the node 6. So this is how we'll define the flow conservation constraint. So you can see we are getting the linear programming equations basically here. Right? We are writing normally what? Maximum of something subject to certain constraint. So all these lines are constraints. Right? The flow capacity constraints and all this node 1 to 6, they are subject to part of your linear programming. Right? Normally, this is what you are writing in linear programming, yes or no? That value of x, y, z, or x1, x2, x3 should be greater than or equal to 0, or x1 should be less than or equal to something. So x1 to x01 to x67, all these are your variables. So what is left? Can anyone tell? What we have to add to solve the linear programming problem in through this? We have to write something more. That maximum of something should be there. We want to maximize the flow. So what we'll write? So this is what we'll add. Our objective function, that is the main part, right, in the linear programming. So what we want to maximize? We want to maximize x01 plus x02 plus x03. Right? The value of x01, x02, and x03 should be such that total of these three, the total outflow from the node 0 should be maximum. Is this clear? The total outflow from the node 0 must be maximum. So we want to maximize x01 plus x02 plus x03 with these constraints, that x01 should be less than or equal to 3, x02 must be less than or equal to 2, x03 must be less than or equal to 2. Clear? If these three conditions are satisfied, we want the value of x01, x02, and x03 in such a way. Yes, is this clear? So can you tell what will the value of x01, x02, x03, and how much time it will require if you use a linear programming method, simplex method, to solve this example with so many equations? Yes, can you tell? What will the value of x01, x02, and x03? Yes, what is the value? 3, 2, and 0. So it is 5. Is it 5 or 6? Yes. Is it 5 or 6? Definitely it will not be 7. Is it 5 or 6? If I say it is 6, then yes, those who are getting 6, they can mention how, which path you have to consider. because from 0, 1, 4, 7, you will get 3. Right? 0, 1, 4, 7 will give you 3. Then 0, 2, 4, 7 will give you 1. Zero, 1, 4, 7 will give you 3. Then 0, 2, 4, 7 will give you 1. Then 0, 2, 3, 7. Yes. So the correct answer is 6. Right? 3, 2, and 1. X01 will be 3, X02 will be 2, and X03 will be 1. So 3, 2, and 1. That will be the answer. Clear? So now one more way is to write this equation is the value of the objective function is 6, as we have seen, and value of all the variables are also given here, right, which you will set. Another method is you will connect the sync node with the source node. You can see the difference. This is another method. Yeah, right? This is another method to achieve the goal. All the other equations will be same. Flow constraints, capacity constraints, everything will be same. Only one thing is you will connect the sync node with the source node. Your node 7 will be connected with node 0, and we are giving a variable x70. Only the objective function will change. Only the objective function will be different. Same flow constraints, flow conservation and capacity constraints will be as it is. Only change will be in the terms of objective function. So we are adding this 2. That outflow must be equal to inflow. So we are adding these 2 lines. That x70 is equal to, so it is the inflow to the node 0. x70 is equal to x01 plus x02 plus x03. And similarly for the sync node, x47 plus x57 plus x67 equal to x70. So it is one more flow conservation we have to write. Right? It is a flow conservation for this source node and the sync node. And the objective function is we want to maximize x70. We want to maximize x70. Is this clear? So if you use this additional path, one more path, then these 3 lines will be added. This is another way to solve this problem. Right? If you add the path from sync node to the source node, the outflow from the sync node will go to the inflow to the source node. So that will add this additional thing. We have 2 more flow conservation constraint, and the objective function will be only maximize x70. Is this clear? Any query in this? Right, so basically we have gone through our flow network applications in this session. From the next lecture onwards, we'll start a theory of reductions, NP hard, NP complete problems, and examples on how to reduce one problem into another problem. So few of the lectures you have already studied in your algorithm analysis. So you may feel some kind of repetition, but not everything will be repeated. So out of 6 lectures, 4 lectures will be new content and 2 lectures will be repeated content, because it is NP hard, NP complete. You are already introduced to it in the previous semester. So out of 6 lectures, 4 lectures will be new for you and 2 will be a repeated content. It will be in between, not exactly 2 lectures will be repeated, but you will find some repetition during the lecture. Can you share this PDF in Classroom? Obviously, I have shared every material so far. So I will also share this, right? This as well as the previous lectures. Don't worry. Maybe by Saturday. Thank you all.